Yes. Football.
Xavi més cap a la dreta per Messi, Messi, immens Messi, encara 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 Messi, gol!
Another topic that gets me up in the morning, my friends. And it doesn't get any better than this when you combine it with the Balkans. You get a lot of different combinations. You would actually be surprised. Some of you maybe know some things about football culture here in the Balkans. For example, how deeply it's associated with politics, and with phrase, "it's the way of life," is used quite literally. Let's jump right into it, so we can understand a bit better why this sport is so deeply embedded in the culture and get an idea that this is just the way it is here. It's a part of our culture.
Fight and win! Fight and win!
Many of you immediately assume Balkan football with nationalism, and don't worry, you are partially correct here.
Yes.
Most of it does happen in all of the sports here, not only in football. And some of you even know about the 1990s incident in Zagreb, when a huge riot broke out in the Maksimir Stadium between Serbian and Croatian club fans. And again, you could connect it back to nationalism, since after the death of Tito, instability in Yugoslavia was at its peak and the nationalistic ideas started appearing more and more rapidly. But in this case, it goes way before this incident in Zagreb, because we have to trace the beginning of it all the way back to the interwar period, when the kingdom of Serbs, Croats and Slovenes was established, that included all of these countries and more. But you may think that it was run by all of these states, included in the kingdom. To put it as simple as possible, it wasn't. Serbs had much of the authority here, because they contributed a bigger piece of the army to the kingdom. Now you can imagine just how the other nations reacted to all of this, and let me tell you, it wasn't pretty. Here we can see that nationalism and violence mixed with political tensions at the time accompanied football from the very beginning in 1923, when the official Yugoslavian Football League was established. Also, very important to mention here, football associated with the working class of the kingdom also started to show its connections to the Communist Party of Yugoslavia, with its roots dating back to 1919, founded by Filip Filipović. After they realized that football plays an important role in the revolution, the party started to get involved with the workers' clubs more directly, like establishing them such as Veleš in Bosnian town of Mostar. Now just pay attention here of how fast things were changing. Let's travel to the year 1929, when, as I mentioned before, the Kingdom of Yugoslavia was established. Now after this year, they really started to persecute and shut down the workers' clubs. Eventually, the king was getting kind of nervous, so he reacted just in case. But you have to remember, this is the Balkans.
Smeškajmo se.
After the assassination of King Alexander of Yugoslavia in 1934, tensions started rising again. And then, as we already know, in 1939, World War II started. Invasion of Nazi Germany in 1941 divided the state into nationalists and communist revolutionarists. Partisans played a very important role here, because they were the only force that was effectively and successfully resisting Nazi power at the time. Eventually, they pushed them out, and just 1 year later, after the end of World War II in 1946, they gained control all over the newly formed Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. Now let's jump back to football. During World War II, In the already liberated partisan territories, football was a favorite activity to pass the time, and because of that, it became an important tool in a state's creation. Okay, we are finished with war, for now. Now we will travel to Tito's time. During this period, they started shutting down football clubs that were associated with World War II occupation activities and promoting the clubs that had a rich history in revolution. This was the period when Yugoslavia saw Soviet Union as a role model for physical culture, and at the same time, incidents were common, since Lubaštvo, or extreme club loyalty, had a big part in the sport. Serbs and Croats often verbally abused each other with nationalist chants, and it was one of the problems that the Yugoslavian officials could not deal with. After the Tito-Stalin split in 1948, the symbolic importance of football was elevated to international levels. In 1960, the league officially accepted professionalism, while corruption and bribes with match fixings were very common. During the 1970s, Tito continued to push the idea of brotherhood and unity, but some feelings of injustice were starting to appear, especially in Croatia, who feared it was being weakened by Belgrade on purpose. Many attempts to implement clubs' self-management were simply unsuccessful and often abused. But after Tito's death in 1980, the sport started to show an overall crisis in the state, with problems from the early 1940s starting to appear faster and faster. This was the decade when most of the supporters groups emerged in each country of the state. In many cases, club loyalty and ethnicity intertwined, which drove many fans away from the sport. Now, the 1990s Maksimir riot. Many people associate this incident as the start of the Yugoslavian war, with armed conflicts appearing not long after. What is mostly forgotten today is that the Yugoslavian Football League continued with its fixtures for an entire year, even while the armed conflicts started occurring more often. But in 1991, Croatia and Slovenia declared independence from Yugoslavia. Now this meant that the Yugoslavian Football League was dismantled and the semblance of national football associations started emerging. Even after these events, we can still see the crisis that devastated the Yugoslavian football. Borac Banja Luka FC, for example, still continued playing, but moved their home games to stadiums across Serbia for the duration of the war. But of course, many players were seeking help in Western countries, desperately waiting to receive any kind of contract abroad just to live and avoid all of this chaos. So yeah, there you go again with some fun facts. And as always, stay safe, stay educated, and until next time, boys.
Idu. Na, a nabana, šta? A nabana.